pray. Eternal God, how we bless your name, and we thank you that you made this day, and by your grace and mercy you included us. Lord, we come to give you glory and honor because you're worthy of all honor and praise. We thank you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you shall do. We thank you for the gift of Ambassador Bridgewater. Thank you for her work across the globe, making the world a better and safer place for all of us. We ask that you continue to keep her and guide her and allow her wisdom to be flown and shown to so many other people, especially our young people, to know that we have a purpose to make the world a better place than when we found it. Bless this event, keep us all safe, that we might spread the word of your goodness. This we ask in the matchless name of Jesus, who is Lord, Christ, Savior, King, and more. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Dobines. I'm pleased now to present the Honorable Mayor of the City of Fredericksburg, Honorable Carrie Devine, and she will come now to give the welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much, Reverend Offord. And thank you, Pamela. It really is such a tremendous honor and distinct pleasure to be able to welcome Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater, although for so many of us, she really needs no introduction. We are so honored to have so many of your colleagues here, fellow ambassadors. It truly is a distinct honor for us here in Fredericksburg. I also want to make sure we acknowledge our previous mayor, Mary Catherine Greenlaw. Former City Councilwoman B. Palucci. Our Superintendent of Schools, Marcy Catlett. And again, so many of you who are here to share us, but Ambassador Bridgewater, on behalf of our entire community, we extend our warmest greetings and congratulations to you. Ambassador Bridgewater's distinguished career in public service is truly inspiring. It began here in Fredericksburg, growing up here, and among other skills, learning French from her teachers at Walker Grant. French was considered the language of diplomacy. Her dedication to diplomacy and her tireless efforts in fostering international relations have left an indelible mark on the global stage. Having served as the U.S. ambassador to Benin, Ghana, and Jamaica, among many other impactful roles, she has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership and a profound commitment to promoting understanding and cooperation between nations. Today, however, we have an additional reason to celebrate. We'd like to extend our heartfelt congratulations to Ambassador Bridgewater on the recent publication of her memoir. Writing a memoir is a remarkable undertaking, a journey of reflection and sharing, and we are incredibly excited about the opportunity to delve into her experiences and insights through her own words. We know that her story, undoubtedly filled with wisdom, challenges, and triumphs, will be a powerful testament to her extraordinary life and career. Throughout her career, Ambassador Bridgewater has been a champion for education, economic development, and human rights. Her insights and experiences, gained from years of navigating complex international landscapes, offer invaluable perspectives that we're all very eager to hear. And now with her memoir, we have an even deeper window into the world as seen through her diplomatic lens. Today, we have the privilege of learning from someone who has not only witnessed history unfold, but has also actively shaped it, and now shares her journey with us. We're excited to hear her reflections, her wisdom, and her vision for the future of diplomacy and international engagement. So thank you, Ambassador Bridgewater, for sharing so much with us here in Fredericksburg. We're truly honored, and we eagerly anticipate your remarks and the profound insights your memoir offers. So please join us in giving a very warm Fredericksburg welcome to Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. We have a special guest and sponsors that we want to acknowledge before we go further into the program. Ms. Sarah Caruso and Mr. Powell Holly will come to introduce them.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Kuruso. Ambassador Bridgewater is my mentor and my forever boss. We did meaningful work together, and actually that delayed the publication of this book, so I'm very honored to be here today. Welcome to this momentous occasion as we celebrate the launch of Bridging Troubled Waters, Memoir of an American Diplomat by Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater. It is with great honor to acknowledge and extend our warm welcome to the members of the Diplomatic Corps, whose presence adds immense grace and significance to today's gathering. We are especially honored to be joined by Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, former U.S. Ambassador, to the United Nations, who will deliver our keynote remarks. Her distinguished career and enduring commitment to diplomacy inspires us all. We also wish to recognize the retired Major General, Ambassador Anthony Anderson of Jamaica, Your continued partnership and support reflect the enduring bonds of friendship and collaboration that Ambassador Bridgewater holds dear, especially as Jamaica was her final post before retirement. If you're able, please stand. Ambassador Jen Eto, Acting Ambassador, Republic of Ghana. And the members of her delegation. Ambassador Aurelia Brazil, retired United States Ambassador to Ethiopia, Kenya, where I'm from, Micronesia, and the director of the School of Leadership and Management. Ambassador Bernadette Allen, retired United States Ambassador. Ambassador Bisa Williams, retired United States Ambassador. Ambassador Teddy Taylor. Ambassador Natalie Brown. And Reverend Don Curtis, retired member of the Senior Foreign Service. Mr. Clinton White, former Counselor of the United States Agency for International Development. The City of Fredericksburg, City Official Carrie Devine, Mayor of the Fredericksburg, she just left the stage. Mary Catherine Greenlaw, former Mayor of Fredericksburg. Dr. Marcy Cutlet, Victoria Matthews, thank you for coordinating the logistics with the reserved parking slots. Retired Deputy Director of Fredericksburg Tourism and Economic Development, Maurice Mancure. Okay. And going back to the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador, please, Marsha Banako. There you are. Sorry, we missed you. I would also like to acknowledge Ambassador Bridgewater's special guest. Please stand if you're able. Her former students. There you are. Okay, we also acknowledge the alumni and her friends from the Walker Grant High School, where Ambassador Bridgewater graduated. There you go. And the alumni of Virginia State University. And the members of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We also acknowledge Vivian Sekera, the director of the Africa Society, Mel Foote, the president for Constituency for Africa. There is major traffic on the way, so maybe they're still on the way coming from Washington, D.C. And lastly, Mark Olson, who is the principal editor for the memoir. Whose meticulous review and suggestions resulted to the product we are launching today. Also special thanks to Dr. John Olson. And to all of you, invited dignitaries, the diplomatic colleagues, community leaders, and cherished friends, your presence here is a testament to the values of service, resilience, and connection that this memoir embodies so beautifully. Thank you for being part of this celebration of legacy, purpose, and shared history. Congratulations, Ambassador. And before I step away, there is a surprise guest that will be presented shortly.
At least one of the surprise guests, Dr. Jerry Durley, who came up from Georgia. Where are you? There he is. Thank you for joining us. And we also had another one who flew in here. There's the daughter of Ambassador Bridgewater and Reverend Arkwood. Where is she? Stand up. Alma Arkwood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now, Mr. Holly.
Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining on this very momentous occasion. My task is a very special and a very important one, and that is to thank our generous sponsors who helped make this launch possible. At the silver sponsor level, we would like to thank Stanford and Amy Stanford Community Market, Silver Properties, Silver Properties and Larry Silver. At the bronze sponsorship level, Mr. Xavier Richardson. Dr. Paula Royster. And Kevin Pryor, who provided the photograph for the cover of the book. At the Friends level, we would like to thank Oral Afori and the African Dream. Buster Nelson and State Farm Insurance Agent, who provided the pens for the event. And finally, the Africa Society with Vivian Sekera as our Executive Director. Again, thanks for each and everyone who's attended, and thank you to all the sponsors for their invaluable support. Thank you.
Let's give the sponsors and the guests another hand. Thank you. And now it is our pleasure to present Dr. Dr. Max Hilaire, who is a lecturer and author of the United Nations and international organizations, former head of the Department of Political Science at Morgan State University, and one of Ambassador's students, will do the honors to present our guest's keynote speaker.
everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess everybody could hear me, right? Excellencies, former U.S. ambassadors, the mayor of Fredericksburg and officials, friends, and most importantly, former students of Ambassador Bridgewater, and even more importantly, the Morgan students of Ambassador Bridgewater. So it's a distinguished pleasure to be here and to introduce Ambassador Greenfield, who I've studied extensively, and my most recent publication on United Nations permanent members of the council covered Ambassador Greenfield extensively, both positive and in a negative light. But anyway, today it's Ambassador Greenfield has had a distinguished diplomatic career and a trail. Oh, sorry. Distinguished career as a diplomat and a trailblazer. She joined the Foreign Service in 1982 and left in 2017, holding numerous high-profile positions at the State Department over many administrations. Ambassador Thomas Greenfield served as in diplomatic assignments in embassies in Pakistan, the Gambia, Nigeria, Kenya, and Jamaica. She was also at the U.S. mission to the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. Ambassador Greenfield served as the ambassador to Liberia from 2008 to 2012. She was Director General, of the Foreign Service and Director of Human Services, 2012 to 2013. Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, 2013 to 2017. And then most recently, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations from 2021 to 25. Ambassador Greenfield followed a long list of distinguished diplomats who held that position previously, including President George H.W. Bush, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Andrew Young, Donald McHenry, Jean Kirkpatrick, Vernon Walters, Thomas Pickering, Madeleine Albright, Richard Holbrooke, Susan Rice, and Samantha Powers. Ambassador Greenfield made an indelible and positive mark in very difficult and challenging circumstances in representing the United States at the United Nations and, of course, the people of the United States. She held the rotating presidency of the Security Council for at least 4 times at pivotal moments and spoke forcefully on pressing global challenges, including the conflicts in Ukraine, Sudan, Haiti, Ethiopia, Middle East, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Fredericksburg welcome to Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield.
Thank you. This microphone is very important, not just for those who are present, but for those who are joining us online in order to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. So thank you, Dr. Hillard, for that very kind and very generous introduction. I will add one more name to former ambassadors to the United Nations. The person who was my mentor and who really was responsible for my career, and that was Dr. Ed Perkins, who was the first African-American ambassador to South Africa, but also was our ambassador to the United Nations and ambassador to Liberia and Director General of the Foreign Service. So I followed him in 3 separate positions. Let me start by expressing my immense appreciation for being invited by my good friend, Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater, to this historic church to launch her extraordinary memoirs, Bridging Troubled Waters. I want to recognize Reverend Ockard, Ambassador Bridgewater's husband, Pastor Dobines, for that very inspiring opening prayer, and the mayor, of Fredericksburg, Carrie Devine, for welcoming us to this historic city. At this point, after following Sarah, who recognized just about everyone else in the room, I can use that old African adage, all protocols observed. Now, what that means is that I recognize every other important person in this room, and I don't have to name you. But I do have to recognize my ambassadorial colleagues who were already recognized. Most important among them, Ambassador Brazil, who I work for in Kenya, who was my mentor, and I also credit with the success of my career. My good friend, Marcia Barnicott, who followed me a bit as Director General of the Foreign Service and served as our ambassador to Senegal. Bernadette Allen served as ambassador to Niger, to Niger, and was I haven't seen her for years, so I'm so excited to see you here. Ambassador Teddy Taylor, Ambassador Natalie Brown. Did I forget any ambassadors? All protocols observed. You know, when I came in the room, and I can't remember who it was, someone said to me, I'm a very close friend of Pamela. And I looked at him and said, so is everybody in this room. You're not special. You know, I had the advantage of getting an advance copy of the book. And I have to say, I was so impressed. I didn't read every chapter twice, as I heard Pam's mother-in-law is reported to have done, but I couldn't put it down. As I read her memoir, and I'm going to put on my glasses here, I quickly realized that her life story is a history of the African-American experience and of African-American life, and it is also a history of America, a history of Fredericksburg. And for me and so many African-Americans and others who served in the diplomatic service, it is a source of immense pride. Ambassador Bridgewater's story is about diplomacy. It's my story. It is our story. I can't recall when I first met Pamela. She came into the Foreign Service 2 years before me, but in that short period of time, she had already made a name for herself. People told me I had to meet her. And we would continue to cross paths for a number of years, but I never got a chance to meet her. Her name, however, using today's terminology, was already trending. I was a staff assistant in the Director General's office when her request to bid on Durban, South Africa, after already serving 3 years in Pretoria, came to the DG's office for a decision that would allow her to stay in the same country for 6 years, which went against all practice and rules. And I think, Teddy, you may have been responsible for doing one of those memos opposing Pam. And we knew some people had done this on occasion, but not someone like Pam, not a black woman for sure. So memos were flying in to my office. I was a lowly staff assistant, but they were all coming to me for Ambassador Perkins, supporting her being assigned to Durban, including her ambassador, Princeton Lyman, who wrote directly to the DG, Ambassador Ed Perkins, who I just spoke about, who had been appointed by President Reagan as the first American ambassador to South Africa. He already knew the landscape, and he knew the kind of person needed to effectively do that job. And despite the recommendations from his personnel staff, funnily called career destruction officers, who sent in memos against Pamela being appointed, Ambassador Perkins ruled in her favor, and the rest is history. She would become the go-to person for Nelson Mandela, leading former U.S. Ambassador to South Africa, Princeton Lyman, to say, and I'd like to quote him here, "Pamela established a degree of trust and confidence with Mr. Mandela and the ANC leadership that the United States had not previously enjoyed." That statement could have been made for all of Pamela's assignments. Being a 3-time ambassador is not the norm. Ambassador Bridgewater served as our ambassador to Benin, to Ghana, to Jamaica. She not only bridged troubled waters, she was a trailblazer, laying the foundation for all of those who followed her, including me. Hundreds of young Foreign Service officers have been mentored to success by her. She was and continues to be an icon and a role model. I saw the display on diplomacy yesterday morning at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, featuring no other than Ambassador Bridgewater. She is a historical figure who will be admired for generations to come. At the beginning of my remarks, I mentioned how important her memoir is for diplomacy. This is the diplomacy that is under attack. Just yesterday, 1,200 plus State Department employees were relieved of duty, including many of our experienced officers who would have followed Ambassador Bridgewater's path in mentoring the next generation. This book will be important in filling the gap and should be on the reading list of all who wish to successfully pursue a diplomatic career. And I would venture to say for any profession. Bridging Troubled Waters, a memoir, is a must read. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. This time we're going to ask Dr. Paula Royster to come. She's an author. She is an expert in the diaspora, founder of the Center for African American Genealogy and research. She's coming to the podium to present Ambassador Bridgewater.
Good morning. For all my friends in Fredericksburg, you know I'm a woman of few words. You wait for that. I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very proud of Pamela for finally doing the right thing by recording the history as she saw it, rather than wait for somebody else to write it as they see it. Each nation, and we know what an ambassador, we understand that there are titles, U.S. ambassador, but some of us don't really know what U.S. ambassadors do. Every nation has two ways of solving their grievances. One is by force, and the other is by peace. Peace comes through diplomacy, and diplomacy comes through our ambassadors, who speak on behalf of us, we the people, and the President of the United States. They are the first people that foreigners see representing our values and our ideals. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a powerful position. It's not an easy thing to do. When you go to a country where all roads are not paved, internet and electricity, water and food, spontaneous uprisings, it's not an easy life to miss those holidays and birthdays, anniversaries, funerals, But the work that they do on behalf of us creates an opportunity for us to travel to those places, and those people there recognize and appreciate what we've done through their work. Ambassador Thomas Greenfield just mentioned, we lost nearly 2,000 State Department employees just yesterday. The work that ambassadors do to ensure that food through USAID and life-saving medicines through PEPFAR canceled. But all is not lost, because we know, or we should know, that patriotism does not belong to one group of people. And ambassadors exemplify what it means in word and deed, what it means to be an American patriot. Now, I said I wasn't going to go that far, but Pastor Dobine's going to get that collection played out. Our ambassadors are committed to resolving conflict through dialogue. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's soft. But the work that they do matters, not just to us, but the people that are impacted by their humanitarian efforts. They are the highest ranking U.S. official in the countries for which they hold their post. It makes them a highly visible person. There's some risks to being highly visible people. In her chapter on Liberia, Ambassador Bridgewater describes a one-on-one meeting with a Liberian rebel during an active internal war. That's your cue.
Wow. What an intro. Thank you, William. Thank you, Shelton. During one of my trips after meetings in Senegal and the Gambia, and while preparing for an imminent flight back to Washington, I received a call from Assistant Secretary of State Walter Kansteiner. Congress had asked the Department of State to name a special coordinator for peace in Liberia, and he wanted me to assume that role. As a special coordinator for peace in Liberia, I would need to fly immediately to Conakry, Guinea, where Liberian rebel leader Sekou Kane made his headquarters, to deliver an official message to Kane from the Department of State. In diplomatic language, a message like this is called a démarche. To get to Conakry from Banjul, I had to fly to Brussels, then wait there for a connecting flight to Conakry, Guinea. Because there was no direct service between African nations, if there was, it was very limited. And travel between the countries on the African continent was exhausting. When I arrived in Guinea, the United States Embassy chauffeur met me with the regional security officer, whom we call RSOs, who had been assigned to assist me. Our embassy had requested and obtained a meeting with Kane, scheduled for the next day at a local hotel. The RSO accompanied me to the hotel where the rebel leader had agreed to meet with me. When we reached the hotel, the RSO said, "We're here." I thought, well, he was going to accompany me, perhaps for security. But he remained outside, letting me walk in alone. The room was dark and shadowy, with only a table. Kane was sitting alone. I was there face to face with a rebel leader who had been given safe haven space in Guinea on the order of the president of Guinea, Lassane Conté, with whom Kane had a special relationship. I was somewhat unnerved, but remained composed. I sat at the table, introduced myself, emphasizing that conditions in Liberia were severe. Cholera was raging. People were dying en masse in the streets. Yet the rebel forces he controlled were blocking vital international aid to citizens. My assignment had been to press Kane to allow medical convoys to enter. I told him that the U.S. ambassador to Liberia, John Blaney, would similarly called on the government of Charles Taylor to cease hostilities while the convoys arrived and aid was administered. I became more confident when I saw this young Liberian responsible for so much carnage amongst his countrymen listen and take note of every word I said. I then added some thoughts of my own. I looked the young Kane in the eye and asked him how he thought history would assess him for his role in the bloodletting. I suggested the assessment would not be a good one. It would be harsh. And I suggested that at this instance, he still had a chance to take the higher ground and pursue a better course of action. Without saying a word to me, Kane nodded as if to say okay. He leaned forward to pick up his mobile and called his boys, ordering them to pull back as I had suggested. I then called Ambassador Blaney immediately, followed by a deep breath. The timing of the ceasefire was agreed on, and badly needed aid began to flow into Liberia. The day's diplomatic breakthrough occurred in a dark room in the basement of a hotel in Guinea.
Now, those of you who know her well, she didn't just suggest. I can imagine being on the other side of that table in that dark room with her, and it might have come across as I'm telling you to do this. There's a lot of risks. And if you got nothing out of that, she put her own personal safety by taking a chance and talking to this guy who was a notorious killer. And she dealt with it with the poise and grace that we would expect of emissaries of the United States. All risks are not in, there are some rewards, not just risks, there are some great rewards, and some of them are professional. When you see your friends or professionals and artisans or musicians or cultural scientists or scholars come to the host country and share their experiences as Americans. And then there are oftentimes some personal rewards, ones that cannot be replaced, one for the record books, one for forever. In this next excerpt, she's going to share her reactions that she had to a lunch invitation with Madiba, the late, great Nelson Mandela.
Thank you. As tours of duty come to an end for those of us in the Foreign Service, it is customary to pay courtesy farewell calls on major contacts, particularly those individuals and interlocutors that we had engaged in the course of our work. I had many such appointments scheduled in KwaZulu-Natal and other parts of South Africa because I had met people from all over. I believed that President Mandela would allow me a few moments in his office to say goodbye. But when Carrie Johnson, my assistant, returned after making a call, she reported, quote, "He doesn't just want to say goodbye to you, he wants you to have lunch with him at his residence in Johannesburg." Later, when she handed me the schedule for that official day in South Africa, she had written in a big blue Sharpie, "Lunch with Madiba," plus a smiley face at the appointed time, 12:30. I kept going over those words. I just could not believe that I would be afforded such a singular honor. I was not just meeting with a revered ANC leader who had been thankfully now released from exile, but rather I was having lunch that day with the president of South Africa. No ambassador, no note taker, no photographer, just the two of us. I flew up from Durban to Johannesburg, where I would board my international flight later that day. to meet with President Mandela. We shared a warm conversation and a lovely meal. He asked my thoughts about KwaZulu-Natal in the days ahead. I gingerly ventured an assessment suggesting that while there certainly would be some bumps in the road, I nevertheless hoped and believed that South African people would move ahead to build a peaceful and inclusive nation of opportunity, cherishing respect for everyone. The desperate need for real change for all South Africa's people was paramount in both our minds. The only interruption came at 1 p.m. when Mandela's housekeeper brought in a portable radio so he could listen to the BBC News. He explained to me that he had formed this habit during his days in prison. Long-term inmates like himself had been allowed only this small window to the outside world. When lunch ended, Mandela wished me well with a hug, and I promised to maintain contact. He left for our lunch with Tokyo Sekwali, who was an ANC stalwart. Tokyo took the photo of Mandela and me smiling broadly from the porch of his residence, and that photo is my favorite of all the many photographs I have with Nelson Mandela. I want to say something about my colleagues before it's over.
All right. So we're going to do something interesting here. And I'm going to come over here and have a conversation with these formidable women. And I'm going to do my best not to shake myself right out of this chair. Give her another round of applause. So, Ambassador Thomas Greenfield, you've had a chance to listen to a few of the excerpts, and I'm sure we're going to get your book soon, too. There's no pressure. I'm wondering if you can, as you listen to her, if her memories provoke some thought about your experiences, and if you can share, I mean, it doesn't have to be in a room with a murderer, but one situation where you were in a difficult situation and you found your way out of it.
I think many of my friends in this room know that in 1994, I was in Rwanda during the genocide. And it was a moment. I wasn't serving there. I was working for Ambassador Brazil, but I had regional responsibilities. And I just happened to choose the wrong day and the wrong time to make my official trip there. A day after I arrived, the president's plane was shot down, and the genocide started almost immediately thereafter. I thought I was safe. I was in the home of the deputy chief of mission, the deputy ambassador. It's a diplomatic residence, so we weren't too worried about our own safety. But we got a call from the next door neighbor, who was the foreign minister, and she found out that her name was on a hit list, and she asked if she could come over to our residence. My immediate response was, yes, if we can save her life, we should bring her. This is a diplomatic residence, we're safe. We tried to get her across the wall by several means. It was literally a 20-foot wall, and we did not succeed in getting her across the wall. To just speed it up, she was killed, but when the soldiers went to her home, they didn't find her, and they assumed she'd come across the wall. And so if she had come across the wall, then she was with us. So they came charging into our compound, and they were looking for this tall black woman, and they saw me. And their assumption was that I was her. And in French, I kept saying, I'm not the person you're looking for. I am an American diplomat. And all of that to say is they didn't believe I was an American diplomat because I was black. And I survived, to shorten the story. But I always felt, oops, sorry, it would happen now. I always felt that I survived for a reason. And that reason was to continue to do what I was doing.
Oh, well, I am grateful that you survived. And your story will live on through us now that you shared it. Wow. I'm going to ask a question for both of them. I want each of them to answer. And then if there's time, depending upon who's controlling the time, we may be able to take a few questions from the audience. You have each served more than 30 years with the Department of State, and you've lived and traveled abroad extensively. My question to both of you is based on your experiences and our current political climate. With the dramatic shift in foreign policy, in decimating critical food and medical programs like USAID and PEPFAR, and of course the forced reductions yesterday in the civil service, and 246 foreign service officers were a part of that number. And those officers are the ones who are tasked with creating peace through dialogue. Lawlessness and disorder abounds, not just in other places. It is occurring here. And people are empathetic. They're apathetic, I should say. Tired of fighting. Some of us have given up on our ideas and values that you have worked, all of you ambassadors have worked your entire careers to uphold. Based on your experiences, what have others done in similar circumstances in the countries that you've served? And what can we do to keep fighting the good fight? So I'll start with you, and you can pass it.
Well, thank you for starting with me. I was hoping you would start with her so I can just say all protocols observed. You know, I think the answer is really simple. We have to keep on fighting. We have been here before. We have seen this before. We have faced adversity before, and we survived. And I have to be honest in saying I never thought we'd go back. And I clearly was wrong. So what that means to me is that we have to continue to fight. We can't ever let up. We can't ever sit on our hands and pat ourselves on the back and say, well done. We have to keep fighting. So that's my message, and part of that fight is to vote. I gave a commencement address to high school students in Louisiana in May, and I asked them, all of those who were 18, had they registered to vote, and not one had. And so I said to them, I want you to go out of this room and tomorrow morning register to vote. And the 17-year-olds, as soon as you hit 18, register to vote. But don't just register, vote. And not just in national elections. You need to vote for your mayors. You need to vote for your school boards. You need to vote for your city councilmen. You need to vote for your judges to ensure that they reflect the values that you believe in.
Thank you very much. Me check the battery? Okay, can you hear me now? All right, as I said, civil society, each one of you. As my good friend and former boss, Jerry Darley, said, this isn't the first lynching, okay? When you see the tree up there, you know you gotta get up and keep on going. It's as simple as that. And Linda talked about voting. My grandfather, who pastored this church, started a night school so formerly enslaved people could learn to vote. Vote way back then. So we owe it to ourselves, to our progeny, to continue this. Because you can't blame folks if you're not in the game. You got to get in the game. So that would be my remarks and comment, Paula, on that. Thank you.
So I'm going to conclude this segment of the program, and then I'm going to give it back to Ambassador Bridgewater for some remarks. I'm grateful. Thank you, both of you ladies. Well, okay. We're going to open it up for questions if you have one. And here's the rule. 50 words or less. No statements, just a question. And that ensures that everybody gets the opportunity to ask a question. So if you have a question, I'll listen. I'll come right out there to you. Bring you the mic, excuse me. So you can be heard. State your name and then your question.
Thanks. My name is David Durham. So I'm a retired 30-year Navy veteran. And at the tail end of my career, I had the honor to serve in Ankara at the Office of Defense Cooperation, Turkey, where I had the requirement to represent Central Command to the ambassador and then the chargé. So I'm wondering, ambassadors, if you could talk about the importance of the whole of government approach and the dangers that are happening under this administration, and their, that the rejection of that approach, the importance of how the State Department partners with the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, the law enforcement agencies, HHS, et cetera.
Thank you, David, for asking that question. The whole of government approach is simply essential, as we all will attest. I always would say to the military and other agencies at post, we salute the same flag, okay? You do it your way, you have a function, we have a function. But putting it all together, making it meld to ensure the outcomes that we want, that is why whole of government is essential. And I'm so pleased that Ambassador Brazil is here. I have to acknowledge her. I took the senior seminar under her, and we traveled in military aircraft. We learned how our military live and operate because we represent all of you and all of the things that you do. So that is whole of government. And so it is essential in terms of our law enforcement, in terms of our agriculture. It all works together to serve this nation and all of you. So in a word, we have to do it. I see a lot of military folks here. Our job, as the ambassador will know, is to keep you out of harm's way and all of us safe. Let that be the last question.
All right. So thank you, ladies, for being a role model for me, for your endurance and your perseverance. I know it wasn't just your jobs. I know there had to be something else guiding you and protecting you and keeping you safe from harm. So I'm grateful in this house of the Lord for the protection of the Lord. So next on this, are you, one more second? I think she wants to say something, and then we're going to who? Presentation? Oh, yes.
Thank you. And thank you for participating in this session, this portion of the session. We're now going to have a presentation. Ms. Ari, if you will come with the presentation. Where is she? Yes.
Wait. I have to get a picture.
Thank you, Ambassador Linda. We love you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Eloquently beautiful. As we get ready to close, we are keeping good time. And we have 3 more minutes, even though the hour is striking at 12, because we started 3 minutes later. I would like to acknowledge a person who says it all by not saying anything. In the midst of all of these accolades, and I'm relatively new. I'm on the tail end of Ambassador Bridgewater's diplomatic journey. Officially speaking, I don't know these distinguished leaders and ambassadors. I know Dr. Brazil. I don't know the others. But there was one whose name was mentioned that I think deserves recognition. Because what was said of this ambassador was not complimentary. And yet he is here today, having voted against the ambassador who went to South Africa and changed the world. But he's here today, and it's not a funeral. And the Ambassador Greenfield told the story. Would you stand up, sir? This is what diplomacy is all about. And I said earlier, at the beginning, that we're here to recognize and honor someone who has been bridging troubled waters. But also each of us, each of you, have been given that same assignment. And we see it right here today in the flesh as an example for how we may go forward. And now we're going to have thanks given by oral authority.
God's blessings to everyone here with us today. As we conclude this memorable book launch and signing event, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed author, Madam Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater, for sharing her inspiring memoir, Bridging Troubled Waters, with us today. Your story is a testament to your strength and resilience. Distinguished guests, excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, and honored professionals, I'd like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude for your tireless efforts in fostering diplomacy and international relations. Your dedication to bridging gaps and building bridges too, no pun intended, between nations is truly commendable and deeply remarkable. Thank you for your invaluable work, and I appreciate your presence here today, all of you. I would also like to thank our distinguished keynote speaker, Honorable Madam Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, for her thought-provoking remarks. Your insights have added depth and meaning to today's event. To the organizing team and volunteers, thank you for your tireless efforts in making this event a success. Your dedication and hard work have ensured that everything ran smoothly. To our attendees, your presence and enthusiasm have made this event truly special. Thank you all in advance for sharing the news about today's amazing occasion, and please do share. We are grateful for all your support and engagement. Last but not least, permit me to finally say a big thank you to Shiloh Baptist Church for providing us with this beautiful, historical, and spirit-filled venue. We appreciate your hospitality and generosity. Thank you to our eloquent event MC, musicians, and of course, for the refreshments. I'm looking forward to it. And to all who worked behind the scenes, once again, we thank you all for this special occasion. In observance of all protocols observed, please permit me to appreciate all here today. And now, we hope you leave here inspired and motivated by Ambassador Pamela Bridgewater's story. And remember, this is just the beginning of greater things to come for her and for all of us here. Everyone here, thank you all for being bridge builders. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you. There is a statement I've been given to add on to these acknowledgments, and I will read it before we close. Thank you all to our participants, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Please get your book signed and enjoy the refreshments. Last but so important, Ambassador Bridgewater wanted to recognize the developmental editor, Mr. Mark Olson, who moved the book to its completion. Mark Olson is an author and a member of the Shiloh Baptist Church Old Site. Mr. Olson, would you again stand so we might salute you and thank you. Before our closing prayer, let me just make one more statement, somewhat personal, but not self-serving, because I mentioned earlier that I joined this diplomatic journey on the end of its official term. But as we often say for the military, I think it is appropriate for us who often see the glowing, resplendent positions in high places, a word for those who are serving here today, representing our U.S. Foreign Service, all of these ambassadors, as well as Ambassador Bridgewater and Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, that behind them and around them and under them are family members and close friends who give them support as they go out to represent our nation. So whether you are present or absent, whether you are outside or inside the circle, let's give them a hand. Thank you. And now our closing prayer by Malik Johnson.
Thank you. It is such a great pleasure and opportunity to be here on behalf of our pastor and First Lady. Again, we want to say thank you for your work that you do in and outside of the church. We are so grateful to witness this as you are still, as we should honor and give the flowers to those while they're still living and not later. So again, we say thank you. We honor you. Can we give it up for her again, please? And let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you right now, thanking you for this opportunity. Thank you for this moment of gathering, of not only to celebrate this book, but to honor this remarkable voice, God. We thank you for her work that she does and she continues to do. God, we know that it is with you that she can go on, God. And we say thank you, we thank you, we thank you. And God, I ask that her work will take root and bear fruit in the mighty name of Jesus, God. Let her story and her work continues from generation to generation and on. God, we thank you. We magnify you. We lift your name on high. In the most precious name of Jesus, we do pray. Amen, amen, and amen.